Hi everyone, I'm Heather Wen, a retired nurse practitioner and the founder and practitioner at Arizona Healing Alternatives. On this channel, you'll find several videos, what I like to call aha moments, where we'll be discussing issues that impact your health. So whether you decide to use Western medicine, alternative medicine, or even a mix of both, I'm passionate about you knowing what your options are. For today's aha moment, I want to talk about that little phrase you've heard, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I believe Ben Franklin said that. But it's really, really important. I want to talk about prevention today because prevention can truly be life-saving. So stay tuned. So when I was thinking about doing this video, I actually didn't want to videotape today. Reason being is because I have this, when it comes to vanity, I have this little thing on my nose that I just got taken care of at the dermatologist office. And then I was thinking, wait a minute, that's a perfect thing to talk about because I have some real serious things to talk to you about this word prevention. For me in the practice, I see so many people who fall into one camp or the other, where they're like, oh, I absolutely refuse to use Western medicine. I won't do it. I won't go in. I don't want to have my exams. I'm not going to do it because, I can't stand everything that's happened in Western medicine. And then I have people that sit on the other side that are like, I'm only going to do Western medicine and that's all that exists. Now, usually if they're with me, they're kind of open to other options, but sometimes they just want to talk about their Western medicine care and have me give my opinion on that. Either way, what happens is when you sit at either of these camps, you don't allow the possibility for all the healing options for yourself. And what I really want to talk about today is trusting your gut and those preventative exams, because I have people come in here that don't believe in Western medicine, don't want anything to do with it. But if they're sitting with me, I'm going to give them my opinion. And oftentimes I will say to them, I realize you don't want to go in and see a Western practitioner, but here's, I can help guide you through that. But I really think we need blood work, or we need certain tests, or we need screening tests. And where this becomes really, really important, not just my nose, which we'll get into in a moment, but where this becomes really, really important is a lot of those screening exams, if something is caught early, it can be life-saving. I've personally had that happen for myself, but also I want to tell a couple of stories. One story, and I have his permission to tell you this, is I have a friend who actually, was just going in to get some life insurance. And when this person went in to get some life insurance, they had their blood drawn and they did a prostate check. The PSA is what it's called. It's a blood test. Now, with a PSA, I didn't know because in the opposite realm in women's healthcare, which is where I originally came from, was being a nurse practitioner as a women's healthcare nurse practitioner. People would ask me and say, well, can I get the CA-125? Because the CA-125 is a blood test and it was used once somebody had ovarian cancer. So back in those days, which was quite a long time ago, back in those days, it wasn't a very good blood test or screening tool for that because it just didn't, it could pick up and cross-react with a bunch of other things. So people really, really wanted to go get the CA-125 because ovarian cancer is very, very hard to pick up until it's at its late stages. So with that, maybe that's changed, I don't know, since I'm no longer in the profession, but basically this person had their PSA test. It came back positive, and I don't know if PSA is any better at picking that up screening, but guess what, it did. And that person went in, they caught prostate cancer, and they caught it early enough that it hadn't spread anywhere. So how do you pick up prostate cancers? Well, when men go in every year and at a certain age, they start doing digital rectal exams, which is putting a finger up the rear end, and then they can feel that little gland there. Okay, they can feel and see if it's enlarged and stuff. But what's so important is, can you imagine if that person hadn't done that and then they actually started having symptoms later on? It could be too late. So with that, and for myself, what do I do every year? I live in Arizona. Sun's out. My dad was a redhead, and so I burn with SPF 50 on, so in the moonlight probably too. But basically what happens with that is every year I go in and I get my skin checked by my dermatologist in Western medicine. So I go in absolutely every single year. And when I went in one year, I saw this little spot. This is a few years ago. I saw this little spot and I thought, that seems new to me. And she looked at it and said, you know, this doesn't look typical like it would if it were a skin cancer of some kind. But since it's new, I'm just going to remove it. Thank goodness she did, because it was actually dysplastic. Had actually cancer cells there. So we had to watch it for a period of time. Same thing, I went in this year, got this little cryo or freezing done here, and that one was even more subtle. This one was just like dry skin. I was just sitting there and going, you know, I'm just put some lotion on my face. I'm just going to do that. And it just seems like some kind of dry skin areas. But I went in and I told her about it, and she goes, that's actually a precancerous area, and we need to kind of burn it off. But burning it's with cold. And so that's why this little area now is peeling, because we got rid of that. Now, I'm really happy with my friend who found out about the prostate cancer early and is doing well. I unfortunately have a story that's not as happy in regards to that, not in prostate cancer, but actually skin cancer. So when we're talking about the little skin thing on my nose, the thing is that this is a friend of mine, and I was in my 20s at the time when this happened. And a friend of mine, he lived by himself, and he was very fair-skinned. He was actually blonde, lived by himself, and this was actually out in New Mexico. And he noticed, you know, just like he thought it was acne on his back, and he noticed it there. And, you know, he didn't go in for skin checks or anything like that. And what he did was, because, you know, he was very young, and he just thought, oh, it's a zit, it's bleeding, it's a zit, you know, I'm just going to ignore it, until it just wouldn't stop bleeding. And unfortunately, when he went in and he had that taken care of, there's different types of skin cancers. Some, like squamous cell cancers, they don't tend to what's called metastasize or go other areas in the body. And then that's usually basal cell, and then squamous cells can have the potential to do that. It's the basal cells that don't. But then there's the worst type, which is malignant melanoma. And malignant melanoma is very fast acting, very rapid, very dangerous. And they found it in him, and it was malignant melanoma actually. And then he went through all the treatments, and he was doing so very well. It was just amazing. You know, they removed lymph nodes to check, and they were all clean and everything looked good. And then unfortunately, about a year later, they found a spot on his lung, and it was sort of everywhere. And at that point, there was not much they could do. So I'm sorry to tell that sad story, but it's really important. I can't stress enough why it's so important, because, you know, he didn't have anyone looking at that. And even if an untrained eye saw it, you know, not a dermatologist, they might have thought it was acne too. So that's why too. And he died of that when he was 30 years old. No one, for something so preventable, no one should ever have to pass away from, sorry, I'm getting emotional. No one should ever have to pass away from something that is so easy to pick up and so easily treatable when it's in its early stages. So all of these different things, when people get colonoscopies, I know even, you know, there's lots of controversies with colonoscopies, mammograms, thermography, all sorts of things. The bottom line is that you have to do what you're comfortable with. But it's things to think about when there are things that can be picked up so easily and treated so easily if they're caught easily. And that's why they say, the old adage is that men don't live as long as women, because they tend to not go in for their exams and not do that. It doesn't mean when you go in, if you're really into alternative medicine, it doesn't mean that when you go in and they tell you, look, you need to do this, you need to get on your cholesterol medication, you need to get a blood pressure, it doesn't mean you have to do those things. What it means is that with whatever screening tools we have, and even still, there are some people said, well, you know, I had my ultrasound and then I ended up with ovarian cancer anyway. Not all of the tools that we have in Western medicine can pick up things really early on. But for those that can, they can be completely and totally life-saving. And it's so important, like I said, I always tell people, go in, get your blood work, see what they have to say, or go in, get your screening tools, your screening exams, because there are risks to things like, you know, your colonoscopy, things like that. There are risks to anything in life. But if you at least have the information, then it can help you make better decisions, whether it's alternative for treatment or whatever you'd like to do, I always recommend, please, 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 and sometimes I beg some of my patients, look, I really recommend that you go in and get this test done because it can help save your life. If you enjoyed what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Also, you can hit that notification bell, and anytime videos of this kind come out, you'll be notified. So please, please take care of yourself on all levels, but it also includes getting those screening tests done. Have a good one.